If this isn't good for my heart, I don't know what is.
By the time he felt the first symptoms, that tightness in his chest, President Clinton's heart disease was well advanced. It had been decades in the making.
You don't die with your first plaque. You develop atherosclerosis blockages really your whole life for many, many years before it causes a heart attack or stroke.
And what Dr. Agatston told me next should ring a bell of hope for just about anyone who is ever worried about a heart attack. It doesn't have to happen.
One of the best kept secrets in the country in medicine is that doctors who are practicing aggressive prevention are really seeing heart attacks and strokes disappear from their practices. It's doable.
And you're saying with what we know right now, we don't have to have any more heart attacks in this country?
I'll never say not any, but the great majority. Yes, absolutely.
It's the biggest killer of men and women, heart disease in this country.
And it's completely preventable.
We now know when Bill Clinton was president, he passed his annual physicals, but his heart disease was still progressing, undetected. I asked his cardiologist why.
One lesson is that checkups are not a substitute for lifestyle.
In 2001, when Chelsea was graduating from Stanford, I started running again. I wanted to get in good shape, and I thought, this is crazy. I couldn't run more than 3/4 of a mile without stopping and walking 100 yards and getting my breath back.
3 years later, the bypass operation with Dr. Craig Smith. But President Clinton's heart troubles were not over. The doctors said it was a mechanical failure of the bypass, and he needed stents to open the blocked artery.
I got so lucky they were able to put those 2 stents in, you know, and fix an artery that was pretty bent and ugly.
The goal of the treatment, and I think it will be achieved, is for President Clinton to resume his very active lifestyle. This was not a result of either his lifestyle or his diet, which have been excellent.
But Dr. Dean Ornish didn't see it that way.
And so I wrote him a letter and I said, you know, the friends that mean the most to me are the ones that tell me what I need to hear, not necessarily what I want to hear. And you need to know that your genes are not your fate. And I say this not to blame you, but to empower you. And I'm happy to work with you to whatever extent you want to move forward in that way. And we met a few days later and he said he was ready to do it.
I essentially concluded that I had just played Russian roulette, because even though I had changed my diet some and cut down on the caloric total of my ingestion and cut back on how much of the high cholesterol food I was eating, I still, without any scientific basis to support what I did, was taking in a lot of extra cholesterol without knowing whether my body would produce enough of the enzyme to dispose of it. And clearly it didn't, or I wouldn't have had that blockage. So that's when I made a decision to really change. I should have done it after the surgery.
After getting the stents to open up that blocked artery in 2010, former President Clinton says he decided to make changes in his diet. This time around, he decided to get much more strict, radical even, in his approach. No more meat, no more eggs, no more dairy, almost no oil. The mantra is, eat nothing that has a mother or a face.
Talked about the fact that you love to eat. I mean, this is...
But I know, you know, I like the stuff I eat. I like the vegetables, the fruits, the beans, the stuff I eat now. I like it.
Do you call yourself a vegan now then?
Well, I suppose I am if I don't eat dairy or meat or fish, you know.
So you've cut all that out. I mean, do you crave
The
it?
only thing, once in a while, literally in well over a year now, at Thanksgiving, I had one bite of turkey.
Clinton's dietary guides, Dean Ornish, and this guy, Caldwell Esselstyn, at the Cleveland Clinic.
Apparently he read my book. I've never met the man.
Dr. Esselstyn has written him, though.
Oh, he wrote me a letter saying he thought I was even cheating on mine because he was afraid in my protein drink I had some dairy in there. It was hilarious. And I checked, and on one of them, he was right. I'd only done it once.
You checked it out?
Right. Yeah, I did.
Every month, the 77-year-old Esselstyn holds a day-long seminar, attracting doctors and heart patients from across the country. like Sharon Kintz, a retired private investigator from Canton, Ohio. Kintz had a heart attack 6 months earlier after a coronary artery became completely blocked.
He said, for someone who had what you have, the only warning you usually get is death. And at that point, I really knew how lucky I was.
Like a lot of women, Kintz did not experience the classic chest pain, but rather fatigue and a pain in her jaw.
He said, you're going to have open heart surgery. He says, I can fix you today. I can just take you right down to OR and I can operate on you right now. My son was in there and he was ready to wheel me down to the operating room because he was frantic. You know, it's terrifying.
What Kintz did next may surprise you. She turned the surgeon down cold, said no to open heart surgery, and decided to take a chance.
I bought some parsnips the other day. Always have sweet potatoes on hand.
Using food as medicine.
I love these. These are
She's betting her life on Dr. Esselstyn's diet.
She had a heart attack.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You know, Sharon.
Oh, yeah.
Doctors recommended she have an intervention. She's not doing it. Is there a downside? Could she be putting herself at risk?
No. I think that's an excellent question. In hundreds of patients, data now going back over 20 years, and this most recent study about a decade, once they start eating this way, you'll make yourself heart attack proof. Going back over 20. We know that if people are eating this way, they are not going to have a heart attack.
Esselstyn thinks heart disease is completely preventable, no matter what sort of family history you have, simply by eating right.
It's a foodborne illness, and we're never going to end the epidemic with stents, with bypasses, with the drugs, because none of it is treating causation of the illness.
Esselstyn has won some allies, like Dr. Terry Mason.
Is there anybody who doesn't know what it is?
Chief Medical Officer at Cook County Hospitals in Chicago and the city's former public health commissioner.
We've eaten ourselves into a problem, and we can eat ourselves out of it.
But it also puts Esselstyn squarely against conventional wisdom, which considers diet only a part of a heart-healthy lifestyle. President Clinton's diet, no meat, no dairy, almost no oil, got me thinking how different what he's eating now as compared to what he used to eat, and what most of us still eat. Make a habit of high-fat, high-cholesterol meals like this, and you can physically see the beginnings of heart disease. For starters, your blood actually looks different.
So let's start by looking at what healthy blood looks like after it has been centrifuged or spun. You can see there are two components. This bottom layer represents the blood cells, and this top layer represents the plasma. The plasma is a clear yellow layer that contains mostly water and electrolytes.
Here's what happens to your blood if you follow an unhealthy diet. The top layer is white and cloudy. It's just laden with heart-clogging fat and cholesterol.
You have some easy-to-remember adages about how people can decide what they should or should not eat.
We know what they shouldn't eat. That is oil, dairy, meat, fish, and chicken. What do we want them to eat? We want them to eat all those whole grains for their cereal, bread, and pasta, beans, vegetables, yellow, red, green, and fruit. Now, what particular vegetables do we want them to have? Bok choy, Swiss chard, kale, collards, collard green, beet greens, mustard green, turnip greens, Napa cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, cilantro, parsley, spinach, and arugula, and asparagus. And I'm out of breath.
Nothing with a mother, nothing with a face.
You're not talking about just reducing your chance of heart disease. You're talking about potentially reversing heart disease.
Oh, absolutely.
The late wisdom is that once you develop these plaques, they're there. You're stuck with them. Try not to let them get worse. Is that faulty thinking?
I think it's absolutely faulty thinking.
Sharon Kintz survived a heart attack a year ago after a coronary artery became completely blocked. Now she's counting on the Esselstyn diet to keep her from having another.
Thankfully, your heart muscle function is normal.
Kint's cardiologist, Adnan Zaidi, says so far so good with the diet.
It's a difficult sell, but you know, those who get onto it have benefited from it without a question.
I asked Sharon Kintz to meet me here in New York City. You know, cooking at home is one thing, but eating on the road, eating on the run, well, that's quite another. As the old saying goes, if her diet can make it here, it can make it anywhere. 46th and Broadway, please. Sharon?
How are you? When you cook at home, it's a lot more in your control. What's the most difficult thing when you're on the road?
What I see here is I see pizza, which is not, because I'm sure there's oil in it, and pizza, and that looks like pepperoni. When I look up here, I see pasta.
Right.
So my question would be when I go in, do you have whole wheat pasta? And then my second question is, can you prepare it without oil? That's
That,
a not.
no.
That's a not. That's a not.
That's not.
But they have pasta and they have salad.
All right, so here's another restaurant.
Okay.
I'm gonna take some advice from you. You look at a menu like this. Tell me what comes to your mind.
The majority on there, I'm not going to eat.
So you just focusing on salads?
No, not really. I could have the baby spinach leaves, minus the chicken. I could have the peaches, the strawberries, forget the walnuts. And
Is this a restaurant that you would?
oh yeah.
come in and-
If I was hungry, you bet.
You could get a meal here.
You bet I could.
Kintz is a true believer. So is former President Bill Clinton. And nowadays, they have a lot of high-powered company. All of these CEOs and former CEOs are either vegetarians or vegans. The former president once told me he likes to see results. He's helped with relief efforts after the tsunami in Asia and the earthquake in Haiti. He's worked on getting affordable AIDS drugs to Africa. He and his foundation are now seeing results closer to home, like at the Northeast Elementary Magnet School in Danville, Illinois.
On your mark, get set, go!
At Northeast Magnet, students have phys ed every day. More than 1 in 5 schools in the United States don't require PE at all. Fresh fruits and vegetables are on the menu every day. No more fried foods. No more French fries.
Fruits and vegetables at every school lunch. Again, that seems like that should just be the way it is.
Shows you how far afield we've gotten. There were so many people, schools, that were serving lunches that didn't have fruits and vegetables because they contracted with firms to provide them, and they were trying to save money. And the kids were happy to eat pizza and French fries or whatever.
Right.
And when we started this, I think I told you years ago, I didn't know if we could, how much of a dent we can make in this, because changing the culture is hard. It's turning a ship around before it hits the iceberg. But I think we're beginning to turn it around.
Does anybody know what a cardiologist is?
Dr. Arthur Agatston is also focused on improving the eating habits of young people.
I really think you guys should open a restaurant. Did you learn how to do this here?
Efforts like these come at a time when obesity and diabetes, both risk factors for heart disease, are at all-time highs. And in the next 20 years, the American Heart Association predicts 33 million more Americans will have heart disease, unless we change.
And we're very concerned because we are seeing the risk factors associated with cardiovascular disease increasing.
Would you call yourself healthy now?
Well, I think I'm healthier than I was. You know, I lost 20-something pounds. All my blood tests are good. All my vital signs are good. And I feel good. And I actually have, believe it or not, more energy. I seem to need less sleep.
Once you begin making these changes, most people find they feel so much better so quickly. It reframes the reason for making these changes from fear of dying to joy of living. And joy is what's sustainable.
Left leg up, bend it at the knee, reach back with your right hand.
A year into her diet, a year after her heart attack, Kintz says she feels great. Simply walking tired her out 12 months ago.
Sharon, you think this diet's going to make you live longer?
Well, I hope so. I hope I get to see you retire.
I have a feeling you're going to have to live a very long time, which I hope you do.
I hope I do too.
Oh,
yeah, I think, well, you know what? If I don't live longer, I know I'm going to live more of a quality life.
And Sharon Kintz is doing it using food as medicine.
I don't think there's any question that not only could we be past our last heart attack, but the vast majority of people, even my age, if they're prepared to change their diet, exercise a little more, could actually reverse a lot of their blockage.
Heart disease could be as rare as malaria today if we simply put into practice what we already know.
It is possible to keep everybody from having a heart attack with education, with knowledge, with information. Now the question becomes, Are people going to do this?